is greater, then we again swap. So what we do is we keep on checking. That is, we actually check in the backward direction. We select a value. First case, we select 3 and then we compare it with 4. If 3 is less than 4, we swap. Then we take 2 and then compare with 3 and 4. Since it's less than both of them, 2 comes first. Now let's see how the program code of this is. The insertion sort. We have iterating variable I, and we have iterating variable j, and then we have a key. Then we have n. N is actually, we are entering an array. So we have n is the number of elements in that array. Then we have an array ARR. So array name can be anything of your choice. Now enter the value of n. That is, n value of n means the number of elements that is present in the array. It has to be less than 10 because more than 10, it shows an error. For I is equal to 0, we are entering the elements into the array. So this step is actually to enter elements into the array. Next is we're taking for I is equal to 1. Why did I start from I is equal to 1? Because I'm actually comparing the second position element, that is the element which is at the first index, not the element which is the 0th index. When I say second position element, I mean I is equal to 1. That is, the element is present in the first index, because in array the indexes start from 0 and not 1. So I is equal to 1, I less than, or I, here we have to be careful, it's I less than and I plus plus. And then key is equal to ARR of I. That is what I said. We take the second position value, the value which is at the first index, and copy it to another variable. Then we take another iterating variable j. This is the step I'm talking about. J, where we actually compare. What I have to compare? I'm comparing this 3 has to compare with this fourth value. So this is what 1 minus, or I minus 1 position, right? If I is equal to 1, then this position is 0. So I have to minus a position from the i's value to get to this position. That is why we gave j's value as I minus 1. Now we do a while loop where we check if j is greater than or equal to 0, because we never want the value of j to be less than 0, because array index starts from 0 and we don't want the value to be less than 0. So there is condition j should be j should be greater than or equal to 0, and ARR of j means an array of j, that is a value at that j's position, should be greater than key. Why is that? Because if only, since j refers to a position that is 1 less than the position of I. So if I is pointed to 3, j points to 4. And 4, if only 4 is greater than 3, then we have to swap 4 and 3, right? Another example, if I points to 1 and j points to 1 less than I. So j points to 12. If and if only if j is greater than I, we have to swap. That is why we wrote ARR of j greater than key. Why are we using key here? Because we actually copied the value in that ith position to key. Then we are checking. Now if we actually check and we found the first position value, that is, since 4 is greater than 3, we have to swap 4 to 3, right? That is what we are doing. That is what this step is. ARR of j plus 1 is equal to ARR of j, and j is equal to j minus minus, or j minus 1. What is happening? That is, since 4 is greater than j is actually pointing to 4 and I is pointing to 3 and key is also pointing to 3. So we actually confirmed j is greater than or equal to 0. J's value is 0. Also, we confirm that j is greater than ARR of j, that is array at j, that is value j is greater than key. If 4 is greater than 3, then we have to swap. So to where does this 4 has to go? To the position where I is, right? To the position where I is pointing. So I is pointing at which position? J plus 1 position, right? I is equal to j plus 1, because I is pointing at the first position, j is pointing at the 0th position. And to point j to I, we need to write j is equal to j plus 1. That is what we did. So by this step, what we are doing is we are actually removing the 3 value. So in this step, after here, the array will be like 4, 4, 2. So when we do this step, before the array was 4, 3, 2. To key, there is a variable known as key. He got the value as 3. And then after this step, ARR of j plus 1 is equal to ARR of j or array of j. We are actually copying the value of ARR of j means ARR of j points to 4 and ARR of j plus 1. This actually means j plus 1. So initially j's value was 0. 0 plus 1 means what? 1. Okay, there is a difference that you have to note. This array of j plus plus means you are actually changing the index. Means if I write array of j plus plus in the bracket, in the square bracket, what I mean is to go from, if initially j's value was 0, initially j pointed to this index, when I write array, in between the square brackets j plus plus means I am not pointing at the 0th index, I am pointing at the first index or the 1 index. So the value of j gets updated. For example, let's try with another question. That is, I have an array whose value is, I have an array of, okay, int a of 10 or int a with some values. I have values like 4, 5, 6. Okay. These are the three values of the array. Now I'm going to see out a of, for example, if I'm going to see out uh, a of 1, that means I have to get the output as 5. Next, I'm going to write C out a of 1 plus plus or plus 1. See, I got two different answers. So when I wrote a of 1, that meant I'm taking an array. When I wrote a of 1 means the number is getting printed, 5. Now, if I write another output to make it very clear, now if I'm printing C out a of 0. When I print a of 0, I should get the value of 4. But I am writing a of 0 plus 1. Okay, a of 0 plus 1, what happens? I'll do it with an iterating variable so it will be more clear. Or int I is equals to 0 semicolon I less than 3 semicolon I plus plus. Okay, C out a of I. I'm printing a of I. So it prints a of 0 and then I'm printing a of I plus plus. So let's see the difference. See, even though i's value 0, even though I points to 4, when I write, I'll make this value as 6 so you don't get any more confusion. Okay, now let's run the program. See, I actually points to what value? I points to 0. I points to 0. 1 second. Here, I points to this actually, one more thing, one more statement. I'll explain you this right now. So here, see out A of I actually points to A of I is equal to 0. So you get the output as 5. When I write plus plus I inside the bracket, inside the square bracket, it does not point to 5 anymore. It points to 6. Now, if I write C out, or if I write A of I plus 1, that when I actually write like this, what is going to happen is it takes the value of A of I, that is A of 0, and then adds 1 to it. When I write the plus 1 outside the square bracket, what happens is it takes the value which is present at that index and adds 1 to it. When I write plus plus 1 or plus 1 inside the square bracket, what happens is it actually moves to the next value. That is an important difference that you must know. That is what happening here. Here what happens is j plus 1 means the position. So initially the array was 4, 3, 2. And when we write initially j was pointing to 4 and I was pointing to 3 and he was pointing to 3. So when I write a of j plus 1, it is actually pointing to this second position, or the I is equal to 1 index or 3, and then you're copying the value of a of arr of j. That means it is no longer 3, it is 4. And then what happens? I'm actually decreasing or decrementing the value of j. So j's value from 0 goes to minus 1. And then we actually go for this loop. When this loop, the only time in which this loop doesn't work or the loop comes out, we can come out of this loop is when ARR of j is greater than key, or when this condition j is not greater than or equal to 0. Here j is minus 1, which is less than 0. Therefore, this loop, it's this iterating variable, or we exit from this loop. Then the next step is, so now j's value here. When after exiting from this loop, j's value is minus 1. What happens is minus 1 plus 1, that becomes 0. Hence, we get the 0th position as 3. This is how we swap. Is this clear? This is what insertion sort is. We actually take one variable and then we swap it backwards. We take the variable at I is equal to 1 position, then we compare a variable which is equal to 0 position, and if 0 position variable is greater than, then we swap it. Actually run the program and show, so it'll be more clear. Enter the value of n, I am entering 5, then I have to enter the array. That is 34, 53, 22, 4, 6. Array after sorting is 2, 4, 6, 34, 53. Any doubts? Okay. Next, I told you yesterday I got an error while teaching you the character type of array. I'm going to do that now. So we learned integer arrays. Int a of 10. gives you integer array. So how to store character arrays? Character array means we can store numbers, we can store alphabets. A combination of everything is possible. Character is a data type we use, and it is written, even though it's char, we read it as character. Character ch, we have to write the array brackets. If we are declaring it without initializing a value, then we have to put a size. Then to actually read into the character array, we need a for loop int int I is equal to 0 semicolon I less than n semicolon I plus plus. For that, I'll put this as we have to read the value of n, so comma n, being n. So when you do programs for the extreme competition, you don't have to write cout statement like cout, enter the value of n. That is not necessary. You just have to directly write cin statement because it's already in a extreme competition. The input is already ready and set. So when you write scene, it automatically reads. You don't have. We are actually there is already a build set of inputs. We are not entering any inputs. There is already test cases. So we just have to write scene and cout statement is not necessary. Or can you say how? What is the next step here? How do you read? I actually taught you this yesterday. How do you read to an array? I showed it in the yesterday's class. This is how we read into an integer array. This is how we read in our cin a of I. We'll do the same thing here. Cin, it's not a of I, here it is ch of I. Next, we are writing cout. Array is we have to copy this. We need to write another for loop. Since I declared I here inside this loop, since I declared int I inside this loop, this I is only available for this loop. That is, if I actually write here just I, then it would be an error. So if I don't want to repeat writing int every single time, then I actually can declare it here in the beginning itself. So this good and easy method to declare all the variables in the beginning of the program. Now it doesn't show any error since I declared it in the common in the beginning as a common variable. I less than n I plus plus. Now it doesn't show any output to telling me to enter because I did not write a particular cout statement. But when I enter 5, it actually reads. And then now I have to enter what? The variable. So first this 5 is meant for this scene n. And now I have to enter the values in the array by using scene ch of 5. For that statement I'm entering values. That is 45. Let's do with some alphabets. A, B, D, G, and F. See, the array gets printed exactly like this. That is character type of array. Now I'll show you another exception. This same thing, if I actually write a sentence, hello, and if I print hello is me, my, you only get the word hello because the size is 5. Now if I give the size to be 10, and suppose I'm giving the size to be 10. One second. I'll just increase this array size. I'm giving the size to be 10. I'm entering as hello is my. One second. Yeah. So I'm writing 10. I'm entering values like hello is my. The main thing is that if we write values for hello, the only word hello will get printed because the size is just small. But if I write using gets and puts, we can actually enter a whole statement. So instead of using cin, another way of writing the program is using gets and puts. So we can actually write the whole thing. Instead of we actually use a for loop to enter the value. Now if I write gets of ch and puts of ch, that means I am actually writing the whole. That's another way of, instead of using cin and cout, I can use this statement. Now, so I enter the value of n. I can enter the 70 something, and then I'm writing the value. One second. I have to read n here. So if it is hello, I get the same thing. As a whole sentence, I get seen can only be used. Seen doesn't work with the space, but gets, puts works with the space. That is the main thing that I wanted to tell you. Seen doesn't work with the space. If I write the same thing hello in, the only hello part gets printed. The space doesn't get printed. But here, gets and puts works with space. Now, next topic we're going to learn is strings. Strings is actually character arrays, but string has a lot of more function. Like there is a header file known as string.h. So these strings can be easily modified, concatenated, or compared by using some functions in that header file. The string is actually a type of character array itself. The one thing important in strings is that it is terminated with null character. This is known as null character. It is terminated with null character, backslash and zero. It's known as null character. Now, how to declare a string? One is using character string C++. This is also a method of declaring string, same as we declared character array. Next, another method, I already showed you this above method. Next method is using the string data type or the string keyword. That is string str is equal to C++. Now we can use it with C. We can actually, enter the, what do you say, enter the words or enter the data into the string by using cin as well as get type. Cin only, if you actually enter a line to the string, that is hello is my name or whatever, what happens, cin only reads till the first space. But getLine function actually reads the whole sentence or the whole line of text. That is exactly what cin and gets and puts also does. Gets and puts read the gets is actually to read, put is actually to output or instead of cout statement. Get actually reads the whole line of text, unlike scene only reads the space. Now let's do a program. Before that, one second. Okay, these are the some functions that I mentioned. There is string copy. So all these functions, string copy, string compare, string equals, all this comes string length. This all comes under string dot touch header file. So if I have to use any of these functions in my program, then I have to invoke or include. I have to write a statement hash include string dot touch. Now, what is string copy? This first function is known as string copy. strcpy is known as string copy. That actually copies the second string. That is, here it is s2 to s1. So if the first string s1 is hello and the second string s2 is world, after I write string copy s1 comma s2, the s1 string will have world. It will no longer have hello, it will have world because the data of the first string is erased and it is copied or it is overwritten. Now there is another thing called string cat. Cat actually means concatenation, that is adding or joining two strings. So if string 1 is hello and string 2 is world, when I write string concatenate s1 or s2, we don't have to use string concatenate s1 and s2. We can just write string s1 and string s2, s1 plus s2. That method I will show you in the program. Now what does this function do is actually concatenates or add s2 to the end of string s1. So we get the output as hello world. Then string length of S1. String length of S1 means the length of S1. Next, string compare S1. So if I compare two strings S1 and S2, for example, string S1 is John and string S2 is John. Both are in uppercase. You will get the output as 1. It means the both the string has same are the same. But if I write John S1 string John in small letters and S2 string John in capital letters, then it is gonna return either, yeah, it's gonna return 0 if they are same. It's gonna return S1 greater than S2. That is less than 0. If the first string S1 is less than the second string S2, it's gonna return less than 0. Any value less than 0. And it can return any value greater than 0 if S1 is greater than S2. If I write the first string John small letters and second string John capital letters, it's gonna return value greater than 0 because ASCII value small letters is above 90 and that ASCII value of capital letters 65. It is compared on the basis of ASCII value. So these are some of the string functions, string compare. There are actually a list of them, but these are some and the most used ones. Now let's see the program. This is the program. Okay, here there is string s1, s2. I already initialized string s1 and s2 to hello world. Now there are another string s3, s4 and s5. So this, what I am doing here, s3 is equal to s1 plus s2 is known as concatenation. You don't have to use a function concatenate. You can string cat, you can actually use a simple plus. What it means is the hello plus world. It joins hello and world. Then I'm actually displaying C3, S3, and then I'm actually finding the string length of S3. So before this, let us find also right to find the C out S1 dot length. Okay. So let's just run program and find what is the string length of S1 dot length. I got at it as 5. I got it as 5. Then what I'm doing is I'm concatenating by using the plus sign. Then I'm actually finding the string length of that S3, that is the hello world, the whole string. And then I'm telling the user to enter a string. This is how you use getLine. So enter a string means I'm entering a sentence here, not just a word. So if I enter a word, it's fine. This program, we can use it, we can write it with C and it will work because in a word there won't be any spaces. When I enter a text or a line of text, what happens is that there will be a space and CN will only read till the first space. So what we are doing is we write getLine function. How do we write the getLine function? Scene getLine function bracket scene comma to which string it has to copy. We are writing S5 here because I want to copy the ended string to S5. Now let's just run the program. See, hello, first is 5. That is means what? 5 is actually the string length of hello, and then hello world, I get 10. And then I'm writing a string hi, hello. The same thing gets printed even with space. Why does it happen? Because we are using getLine function. That is about arrays and strings. Is there any doubt with arrays and strings? There will be questions in the program to use array concept because there will be at least one problem in the extreme. There will be where you have to enter the elements to array and then either do sorting or a linear search or any modification of array elements. I will show you one question how to modify the array elements. That is, so I'm writing an array int a of 89 something. Then writing a for loop to enter the elements into array. So that is int I is equal to 0 semicolon I less than n semicolon I plus plus. So I have to declare another variable n comma I semicolon. Then I have to write cn n. Then cn a of I. Then I am actually modifying elements. So this I'll actually see out a of I. I'm gonna enter the values. I'm gonna print them. Okay, I'm gonna enter the values and I'm gonna print them. Let me just put a space so it will move. Let's see how I'm gonna enter. I'll show you. I'll run this program and then I'll show you modification. So I'm entering 5 elements. I'm gonna enter 5 elements. That is 6, 7, 8, 4, and 3. If I put W, there will be an error. Okay. So I got the same array printed. Now I'm gonna modify this. That is, I want to add to all the positions. That is to 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4 or 2. So I want to add 2 to all the elements. So how I'm going to do that? That is, I'm writing another for loop. Why am I writing for loop here? It is because I have to iterate or I have to reach all the boxes. Means I. Actually, I need just I is equal to 0. I less than n semicolon I plus plus. What I'm going to do now is see out. I'm going to print a of I plus 2. Or I'm just going to update it first. Okay. A of I A of I is equal to A of I plus 2. Then I'm going to write the same. Let's see. 5. The elements that I'm going to enter is 6, 7, 8, 4, 5, 3. See, I'm going to get 6, 7, 8, 5, 3. And then to each I have added 2. 6 plus 2 is 8. 7 plus 2 is this. I'll just put a new line so it'll be more clearer to you. 5, 5, 6, 7, 8. 5. To 5 I added 2. To 6, 7 I added. This is how you actually modify the array. Now I can actually access, if I want to print only A of 0, that is, instead of this statement, if I wanted to print A of 2, I can just print like C out. I don't have to print the whole array itself. I can just print A of C of A of 2. This is how I access the array, which is the element which is in the position 2. That is, there are 5 elements. The elements are 4, 6, 7, 8. Yes. Now what happens is the last step, it actually prints the element in the second position. That's clear? So it once again. 5. If what is in the second position? 5. The output is 5. This is how you can actually in an array you can actually access any elements from anywhere in the array using the index. Next, what we're going to learn is stack. Now, stack and queue are data structures. They are linear data structures, and one example of stack can be actually implemented by using arrays as well as linked lists. We're going to just look about arrays, how stack is implemented using arrays. Now, so this is what a stack is. So in a stack is by LIFO manner. Stack is in a LIFO manner. What does I mean by LIFO manner is the data that enters last into that array or stack is actually printed out first. LIFO means LIFO, last in first out. So imagine this is what a set of books. So in this, which is the first book you will actually take, the book which is placed at the top, and that book is which is placed at the top is actually put the last, right? When you arrange the stack of books, the small book is actually put on the top. So that is the last book to be placed on that stack. And if you take the book from the stack in a linear manner, it is a linear data type. You cannot take from the middle or anything. It is a linear data type. You actually take the book on the top. When you arrange the stack, the last element which you actually place is the first element which you take. That is what stack is. It is known as LIFO manner. We actually enter and exit element or take or print element in LIFO manner. That is, an element that enters the last is printed out the first. So this is actually stack. So to enter or input an element, we have something known as push function and function, and to exit or print out or remove an element from the stack, we have known as a pop function. So what is a stack? Stack is a data structure of ordered items such that items can be inserted and removed only at one end. That means for this, there is only one end. So one end means what? The same way through which you enter the data is the same way you have to delete or remove the data. So what can we do with a stack? We can do two operations, push pop. There's P and P. It is not very important. Push and pop are the two important operations. Push is used to place an item on the stack, and pop is used to look at the item on the top. The stack can do it. So there is another here to iterate through a stack. We use a variable known as top. The top always points to the last entered value. That means here when one first element is entered. So here in this example, just consider there is only this blue book. So when one element is entered, top points to that one element. So initially when I place the blue book, top is pointed to the blue book. And when I place the orange book on top of the blue book, that top variable, it's actually a variable itself, it is pointed to the orange book. So actually, top points to the last placed variable or the last placed element of the stack. So if there is no element in the stack, top points to what? Minus 1. If top points to minus 1, that means there is no element in the stack. And if top, otherwise, always top will point to the last placed element. Another important thing, stack is implemented using arrays. So array has what? A definite size. So this size is determined by using another variable known as max size. So if top is equal to minus 1, that means what? There is no element that can be, no, there is no element present in this stack. So think about this case. What happens if top is equal to the maximum value? Maximum value, the max size is actually the maximum elements that can be stored in this size. That means the top is already full. You cannot store any more elements. These two things are very important. The concept of top being equal to minus 1, that means top equal to minus 1 or top less than 0. That means the array is empty or the stack is empty, you can store values. If the stack is empty, you cannot remove or print any values out. Now, the, for an array, there is a maximum amount or maximum number of elements that can be stored. That is determined by the array size. So here we take array size, or the array size is stored in a variable known as max size. So if top is equal to the maximum size, that means what, we cannot enter any more variables to that stack. Now, that is what I said. Stack is a LIFO manner, that is the last element to be inserted will be the first element to be removed. Now, what are the application of stacks? It is used for evaluating postfix and prefix in expressions. Now, it can be implemented using an array as an and a linked list. We're just gonna study about array concept. Now, this is how you're gonna push the element. Push the element which you have to enter an element to the stack. So when you enter an element to the stack, the condition that you have to check is that if the stack is already full or not, right? When you enter an element to the stack, you have to check if there is place for that element to be entered. So that is what first thing we write, top double equal to max. Here max refers to the maximum size. Because max is a variable, top is a variable, so you can give it as any names. So if top equal to max, that means what? That already it is full. What does means it's already full? The stack is completely full. So that is the first case. Or I have to check, else I have to write seen item. So if this is not full, if the stack is not full, then I'm actually entering the item and I'm actually writing AF top plus plus. Why am I doing AF top plus plus? Because top always points to the last inputted or the element that is inputted or entered last. That is why I write top plus plus is equal to item. That is how you enter the element to a stack. Any doubts? You just have to understand the logic of stack, because sometimes in a program The program questions in the extreme is very long. It will be almost there will be almost 10-15 sentences, but you just have to find the logic. That is the main thing about extreme. The extreme is to guess the logic. So the logic lies in this basic thing. Just to understand whether should I use an array, or should I use a stack, or should I use a queue, or it's just a simple question of printing a pattern. Just have to understand the logic, and then you get code parting is easy. Just have to know the code or how to enter or exit or delete an element from the array. So this is how do you push or enter an element to a stack. Now how do you pop an element from the stack? That is using the function void pop. So while you pop or delete an element from the stack, we have to make sure that there are elements present in the stack. That is, at least one element should be present in the stack. If there is no element present in the stack, here it is not null, it is minus one. Okay. Minus 1. Minus 1 means what? I told that top is equal to minus 1. I told you that it means there are no elements present in the stack. That is what top equal to minus 1. See out underflow. Else, you are actually outputting the value at top. That is, what is the value that is current at the top. So if the array consists of 2, 5, 6, the value that is going to be printed out is 6. And then we're deleting that value from the top. So 6 gets removed. So what happens? Top minus minus. That is, if this is the stack we have, and then if I do a pop function, what happens is that this book is actually printed out, and the top, which was initially pointing to this green book, points to the red book now because we wrote top minus minus. So is stack concept clear? Now, reversing a word. So I told if you have to reverse a word, using stack is one of the easy methods. Why? Because you enter the word hello, you enter the word hello, and then you enter it. Wow, you enter it to the stack as HELLO, but you actually pop it out from the stack, or you remove it from the stack, or you print it from the stack by using the opposite way. So it will be printed out as OLLEH. So reversing a word using stack concept is easy. You can use it with string. Also, there's another function known as string reverse. It actually reverses the word. Now the next concept is using queue. How do you use queue? Queue is actually bit more basic concept. Queues are like the way you stand in a queue. So the first person to come and stand in the queue will be actually serviced first. The last person in the queue will actually will reach or get the service last. So in queue, in stack, we only had one iterating variable top. Even the entry or even the deleting happen through top. But in queue, we have two iterating variables, that is rear and front. Through rear, so see there is two iterating variables, front and rear. Through rear we actually enter the data, and through front we delete the data. Now, what is a queue? It's a data structures of ordered items such that items can be inserted only at one end and removed at the other end. That is, example is a line at supermarket. So here, data is entered through one end and data is removed or deleted from the other end. So here, uh, initially means front and rear is actually equal to minus 1. So initial condition, front and rear will be equal to minus 1. Front and rear is equal to minus 1. As data is added, the rear gets moved. The position of rear is changed. So what can we do with the queue? There is enqueue and dequeue. Enqueue operation means to add an item to the queue. Dequeue operation means to remove an item from the queue. So the queues are first and first step. Who comes first will leave the first. if rare is equal to max, first thing, anyway, enqueue means entering or inserting an element to this queue. What we have to check? We have to check if the overflow. That means if there any more space to accommodate another element. That is what we do if rare is equal to max. Why did I use rare? Because it's through the rare variable that I am entering data. Next is I'm checking if rare equal to front equal to minus 1. What does this mean is, initially when I enter the first element, rare and front will have values as minus 1. I will assign the values of rare and front as minus 1. So if rare and front is minus 1, that means there is no element present. So I actually have to give the value of rare is equal to front. That means initially from minus 1, I'm giving the value to as 0. Then else I'm writing rare plus. Otherwise, I have to increment the value of rare and then store it here. Store the item in rare. That is enqueue operation. That means initially this rare and front is minus 1. Then what happens is I actually, one second. So initially the value of rare and front I'm assigning to be minus 1. Then when I write or when I check if they're rare and front, when I enter the first element, that is when I enter the first element, what happens is I have to change the value from minus 1 to 0 because I cannot store any value in minus 1 position. That is what I did in the second step. Rare and front value is equal to minus 1, rare is equal to front is equal to 1. Next, I have to check else rare plus plus. That is, there is already an element 1. So rare and front will point to this 1. And if I have to enter 2, the rare has to be updated to 2. That is what I did, else rare plus plus. And then I am entering the item. Next, dequeue operation. Dequeue operation, first I have to check if there is any elements present. That is, front equal to minus 1. Then if front is not equal to minus 1, and it means some elements are present, the next condition that I have to check is front double equal to rare. So front double equal to rare means what? That is, there is only one element present. If front and rare points to the same position, that means there is only one element present. Now, if that is the case, if there is only one element present, after removing that element, what it should be pointing to? Minus 1 because it is underflow condition. Else what? You have to print out the item. That is what we write. Item is equal to A of front and front plus plus. What I mean by front plus plus? Why did I write front plus plus? That is, first, if I got to write that I use a dequeue operation. First then this element is removed. Then I have to move front to the second position or should point to number 2. That is why it is front plus plus. That is about stacks and queue. Do you have any doubt? Should I explain stack and queue again or any doubt? So let us practice. So that is with the portion. I actually completed what I wanted to teach. So let's just practice some questions with for loops. So it will be more easy to do the exam. Let me just find some questions. Okay, this is a question. Write a program. I want you to answer, okay? It will be more easy. This is a question. Question is, You have to display the cube of a number up to a given integer. Let's forget that up to the given integer. Cube of a number. So if I'm going to enter the number, you have to find the cube of the number. How am I going to do that? I need the answer from you guys, okay? I actually showed you an easy way to find the cube of a number. How are you going to do that? Tell me how am I supposed to write? What is the first thing that I have to write in this statement? Tell me that. Let's do it with arrays. So we'll introduce for loop also. So you have to declare an array. Then I'm going to enter some elements into that array, and then I have to find the cube of each element in that array. How am I going to do that? Anyone? Anyone? Okay, let's start. Int a of 10. For example, comma n to tell me how many array elements I'm going to take, comma I, 10. When I enter the value c in 10, and I'm going to write the loop for. Okay, I write the program. You have to explain it to me. One of you have to explain it to me how it works. Is that fine? I want any one of you to explain how this program is going to work. Anyone who is actually ready to answer? Anyone? Okay. What does this program is? I'm going to enter a number, then I have to find the display the cube of a number. So I entered the number to the array a of I, and then I'm going to output by using the pow function. So pow actually comes under the header file math.h. These are some functions that you can use in math.h header file. the diagram clear? These are the some functions that you can use in mat.h header file. That is absolute, sin x, cos x. So here instead of x, if we place, yeah. Okay. So in mat.h header file, we have actually a cos x, sin x, uh, exponents raised to x, float function, log x. So instead of that log x positions, we just have to write the whatever variables we want. We have square root of x to find the square root function. See, sin x, sin hx, square root of x. So square root of x, if we write square root of 49, you get the answer 7. Tan x, tan hx. Then there is a cos x. Then there's float function, log x, power x comma power is used to find the square, the raised to power. There is exponent. These are some functions or which comes under header file math.h. Next, I'll show you what comes under header file string.h. There is string copy which we store. String copy can be used for manipulation. We here check out this example. The first string is computer science. Then there is target. Then there is string in source before copy. Print source. That is computer science gets printed. Then we are writing target. What happens is we're copying target comma source. First string is source. The second string is target. So what happens is what? When you print target, you get target. The next step is using string copy target comma source. So source value in source is copied to target. So when we actually print the next time, what we get is computer science. Is this clear? Next, string length, which helps to find the length of the string. String compare, we actually get a positive value if the strings are same. We get a negative value or less than 0 value if the first string is lower than the second string. The first string greater than the second string, we get a higher value. Example for that. Yeah. The first string is computer, the second string is science. Then we have another variable result. The result variable is of integer type because it stores value 0, 1 or -1. Then compare string 1 comma string 2. If result is equal to 0, then we are writing what? We are actually string 1, we are writing a complete, they are equal. String 1, we are actually here, this gets printed. We are telling it's being equal. If result is less than 0, they are not equal. Here are not equal because why the first string is computer and the second string is science. And there is string concatenate which helps us add or concatenate two strings. Here they use string cat function instead of using plus sign. That is also safe. The ability of using the plus is used as an addition symbol as well as a when we use plus in strings, it's used to concatenate. And when we use it for numbers, we are using it for addition. So that term or that ability of this simple or element to do that is known as polymorphism. Now, just string concatenate target comma source. Target is learning C++ is fun. Source is easy and very useful. When we concatenate, we get it as this, a single sentence. Now, string UPR means string uppercase. That means if given with any letters in lowercase, we can convert the whole thing into uppercase. So here, go through the example. You can see there is a string. See out, you're entering the string. You get. We use the get function. We are actually. Why did we use? You can use get or get line function. Anything is fine. And then we use the convert string into uppercase. So converted the source string. Here you are entering the string as lowercase. You are actually converted the source using string str1, that is the lowercase string gets printed, into uppercase using strupr string. Is this clear, or should I actually run it and show you? Is this explaining clear? Should I run it and show it to you, or explaining by using this program is clear? There's no response. I'll continue this method. To try any string in lowercase, computer science is a completely lowercase string. But to convert into uppercase, what I'm doing is I'm writing as strupr in bracket the string. That is, that computer science string is stored in str1. So you get the uppercase. There's a function str lowercase to convert the uppercase string into lowercase. I wrote the string in uppercase. Now, by using strlvr in brackets string1, I got it converted into lowercase. That's it. I'll show you an extreme problem. For practice for hacker rank, for practicing for the extreme, you can either practice extreme questions. You get extreme questions by you just have to type extreme IEEE coding questions. You get a plenty of questions. Also, another useful platform to improve the way you do and way you attend a coding, or generally to improve your coding, is HackerRank. So in HackerRank, this you have to actually sign in. Then you can actually practice for any of the language. So when we are studying C++, you will have to take C++, and then there will be these are very simple problems. You can actually take some uh, higher level medium problems and start solving. Since you're practicing for extreme, you can actually download this PDF or this document. There are plenty of questions here. This is on the extreme 10.2. These were. Okay. Here is a question. Okay. See the amount of data that is given in the question. It is so huge, right? The questions are so big, but then the answer will be very small. When the question is very big, the code will be minimum 10 or 15 lines, maximum 15 lines. Sometimes it will be very less than 10. So I'll show you almost all the questions are such big. See, this question is also big. And there will be more bigger questions like sometimes the question will be just pattern and you wouldn't understand anything. This question is small. This question is actually your task is to count the number of molecules in a cup of soda which contains distilled water, carbon dioxide, and glucose. You have a machine that counts the number of atoms of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen in a sample. So there is a machine that will count these numbers. So your input consists of a simple line. Just excuse me 1 second. So in this question, yeah, here the what we have to do is your task is to count. We have to count the number of distilled water, carbon dioxide, and glucose in a cup of soda. So you have to build a machine to do that. Now, the input consists of a single line. So this is how the problem is gonna look. There will be the input format. The input consists of a single line with three spaces separated integers C, H, and O. So there will be three integers where C is a count of carbon atoms, H is a count of hydrogen atom, and O is a count of oxygen atoms. Now, there are constraints means that the value of the carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, or the value of the integers given will be never greater than 10 raised to 10. Now, if the number of output format has to be what? If the number of atoms in the is consistent with a mixture containing only water, carbon dioxide, and glucose molecules, the output should be consist of a single line containing free-spaced integer. Number of water molecules, number of carbon molecules, and the number of glucose molecules. The number is not consistent in the mixture containing only water, then the output is error. The output is if the question is what if the number of atoms is consistent, then we have to actually print one single number. If it's not consistent, then we have to print error. So this is one sample input they're going to give, then there'll be sample output. And they're going to give you the explanation of the output. The input indicates there are 10 carbon atoms, 20 oxygen atoms. The only way that this could occur if there are zero water molecules. So 10 carbon molecules and zero glucose molecules. Note that there are additional sample inputs. Okay. So what does the input tell? There are 10 carbon, 20 oxygen. So this has to happen if there are what? Zero water molecules. That means 10 carbon dioxide molecules and zero glucose molecules. So to have 10 carbon atoms and 20 oxygen atoms, you will get how many 10 carbon dioxide molecules, right? Because it's CO2. I hope you understand the formula answer. What is the input? Input means what there is carbon dioxide, glucose molecules in the soda. The output is what? The number of carbon dioxide. So what is the output telling here? It is since there are 10 carbon dioxide and 20 oxygen atoms, that is because 10, 0, 20, since there are 10 carbon atoms and 20 oxygen atoms, we are assuming or we know that the only thing that they can form is CO2, carbon dioxide molecules. That means they can form 10 carbon dioxide molecules. So we have to form output. The output format is water, carbon dioxide, glucose molecules. So water is how many molecules? We only have the input format and the output format is different. That is important. Input is given as carbon, hydrogen, oxygen. So in input format, the first is actually carbon. the second is hydrogen, and the third is oxygen. So with carbon and oxygen, we can only form carbon dioxide. The output format is what water, carbon dioxide, and glucose molecule. So it has to be printed out in such way. So this program, so you got the how the program is gonna come, how you have to assess the input and assess the output. So the almost all programs are gonna have an explanation with it. Now the maximum score, that is almost all programs will have maximum score 100 points. So there will be almost like 10 test cases for. So after you run this program, you can run the code. When you run the code, there will be one test case for your program to be tested. So if that test case is correct, you can submit the code. You submit the code, and after submitting the code, you get what? There will be another 10 test cases which we can't see. We won't know what the numbers in that test cases are. There will be another 10 test cases to actually, it will be tested against that test cases. All the 10 test cases, your answer works perfectly, then you get the complete score for that answer. If there are some test cases where your answer goes wrong or some test cases fail, then you only get points for which test cases your answer works correctly. Now that is another question. Then there is a checkers challenge. So this also, the question is very big. So sometimes when you read the question, you won't even understand anything in the question. It happens to everyone because the questions are so big. Sometimes the questions can be, you won't understand anything. So another thing that you can do, if it is completely a pattern based, if the now input and output are some kind of pattern, this is a trick. Okay, it's not actually going to be right or anything. For example, this is a question. I did not understand the question at all. I I read through it, I reread, but I'm not getting on the slightest clue what the answer is. And then I'm looking, so just focus on the sample input and sample output. Then think if there is any way that I can actually understand a pattern from this. So if there is a lot of numbers, if there are actually the input line is 3 and the input line is some kind of numbers and the output is a pattern correlated, then you can guess the pattern from the input and sample output and you can write the code from it. The basic thing of understanding this whole question is to find the logic in it. So one time there was this question that it was about the whole story of Mahabharata is told in the question about the five brothers. The whole story is told in the question. The simple concept or the what was the logic of that question is to implement a queue. You just needed to write a code to enter an element into queue and delete an element from the queue. The whole thing, there was a whole story of Mahabharata, but then only one, the code is very simple. You just have to enter, you just have to know how to use a queue. So the questions will be complex, but the only thing is to read the question just to understand which are we using, going to use loops, are we going to use stack, or are we going to use queue, or are we going to use some other concept. So that just understand that, and then everything is going to be easy. So in the competition, there will be actually three questions to begin with. One of the question will be easy, one will be medium, one will be hard. You actually start with try one of the questions. If you did not get that one, go on to the another one and do it. So after doing one question, do not remain with the one that you're stuck. Okay, practice starting with the easy one, so it'll be more easy. Now the HackerRank platform. This is a very easy question. Okay, the question here is very simple. This is actually one of the way you actually get a question. Okay, there is some data and then you have to read to the question, then you have to print the output. Then there will be input format, output format, sample input, sample output. Then you have to write the code here. This many portion, that is hash include std using namespace int main will be there. You have to write just enter the code here. And after you can actually choose the language you want. If you want to do it in C++, you can do it in C++. Because you can do it in many other languages. Okay, here it's only C++. You can show it, you can do it in Python, you can do it anything you want. So when you run code, you will be your output will be test case. There will be 3 test cases or 2 test cases, and it will be run against that. You get the output. You will actually come to know if your test cases are correct, if the code is correct or not, and then you can submit the code. This is actually a pattern on how the coding extreme is gonna happen. You can actually practice some questions here. We can directly take past year's extreme questions and practice. That is all about the class. So if you have any doubts, I can explain any topics you want again. Is there any doubts? Otherwise, we can wind up the class. Any doubts? So before appearing for the competition, it is important to just go through loops, learn at least one of the searching method, one sorting method, what arrays are, strings, stack, queue, and then if it is possible, you can study other concepts like trees and all. That is all not very important concepts, but they are kind of important concepts. So anything else? Any doubts to what I taught you? Since we have time, I'll teach you something about circular queue too. So there is a normal queue that we learned, and I'm going to teach you what circular queue is. Now, circular queue is in a normal queue. A normal queue is a straight line. So this is what a normal queue is. See, a normal queue. Here, I cannot, if I remove 0, then the front will point to 1. I cannot never write, I can never input a value to the 0th position again. If I remove the 0th value, that is if I delete 35, I will point to 40. I can never put a value again or replace a value at 35th position or replace a value of 35 after deleting it because the size of this queue is reduced. But in a circular queue, if I delete 40, I can re-enter another value to the 40 also. That is the benefit of a circular queue. The spaces can be reused. In normal queue, it doesn't work. In a circular queue, it works. The spaces can be reused. That is, if I remove 40, I can use that 40 space again. I can reuse that space. That is one benefit of using circular queues. Are you getting confused with normal queues and circular queues? In normal queue, if I remove 30, I'll actually write front plus plus. The front points to 40. Here, I can re-access this position. I can re-access the 40 position because it goes in a clockwise direction. I can re-access, even if I delete 35, I can re-access the 0th index. Here, if I delete 35, I cannot re-access that index because that index is gone. The index as itself is gone because I write front plus plus. The front will point to y. Here, even if I remove 35, I can re-access it. That is what I mean. Next concept I told is about trees. Trees is actually this is trees. Okay. Now the speciality of tree is this root node. Each circle is known as a node in a tree. Each circle is a node in a tree, and this node, the node which does not this node 1 is known as a parent node because it does not have any other parent because it is a topmost node. It is known as a parent node. It is known as a root node. Now, node 1 is the parent node of node 2 and 3, while 2 and 3 are the child node of node 1. 4 and 5 are the child nodes of node 2, and node 2 is a parent node of 2 is the parent node of 4 and 7, 5. So this is what tree structure is. Now, if I'm actually using tree structure, I'm actually have to use array concept itself. So if I enter a root node at 0th index, then its children node will be at n and n plus 1 position. If n is the total number of elements, assume if I enter 1 in the 0th position, then the child node of 1 will be in index I is equal to 1 and index I is equal to 2. Similarly, for 2, since I enter 2, index 2 will be in 0 is equal to, I'll write them down, it will be more clear there. So, assume this is an array 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, this is how the elements of a tree will be stored in an array. Now, here, if this array has 1, 2, 3, 7 elements, right? So, it is 7 elements, so n is equal to 7. So, divide n by 7, you get what? 7 by divide n by 2, you get 3. So you understand that, once again, you get n, yeah, divide n by 2. No, excuse, once again. This is the child node, right? This is the child node. So this is a root node. The first node will be the root node. The children of this node will be found at the adjacent position. So this will be 2 is the child of this node and 3 will be the child of this node. Now, the child node of 2 will be 4 and 5. Since 3 has no child node, it's clear that 3 has no child node. The node of 5 will be all these nodes. All this will be 6 and 7 will be children of fifth node or the node 5. Now, there will be questions based on this to draw a node structure or to draw a tree. This is the basic concept of tree. The first node is a root node. Then the root node has no other parent nodes. The concept of root node is does not have any other parent node. Then there is a children node. 2 and 3 are child nodes of the root node. That is all about trees. Now there is how to input into a tree, how to output from a tree. Now, if it is a binary tree, this is an example of binary tree. Binary tree means it has at least two child node, at least two child node now. That is more than two child node is not possible. Either 0 or 1 or 2 child nodes it has. That is what binary trees are now. The maximum number of child nodes are 2. At most 2 child nodes. So it has either 0, 1 or 2 child nodes. So the value 2 has no child nodes. But here it has one child node. So this is an example of binary tree. So that is all with trees. Any doubt? There's no doubt. I think we can wind up the class. Thank you.
Okay, so I hope there are no queries. In that case, let's conclude. Hope you all had a great time with us. Now is the time to thank you all for making this session a success. First of all, we wish to express our sincere gratitude to Ms. Irene Sunny Tekekara for spending her valuable time with us amid her busy schedules. It was really a great experience for all of us. I'm sure that everyone got a good grip on the fundamentals of programming. A huge thanks to Irene for that. She made sure that we are on the right track. For the engaging session and for the constant support, we thank you on behalf of IEEE SJTET. As a token of appreciation, we would like to present you with a virtual memento. Next,
Thank you so
I would
much.
like to thank all the Next, I would like to thank all the team members from IEEE SJCET as well as IEEE SB RSET who worked for this event right from the beginning, and also the Exico members for always having our back. Finally, I would like to thank our dear attendees. You guys were of great support throughout the session. Thank you guys for being the soul of this session. We hope you guys had a great moment. Stay tuned for more events are awaiting you in HackTHC. Together, we are going to explore and contribute to the IEEE Extreme 15. With that, we are wrapping this session. Thank you all and have a great evening. The feedback form for today's session is provided in the chat box. Do fill it out. Happy evening.